Hello, this is your host Akhil Navluri, and welcome to the brand new episode of the Techospace podcast series. In this podcast episode, I'm honored and thrilled to welcome one of the most eminent and prominent industry leaders of the communication and marketing space, and also having a lot of inclination towards the IT space, Mr. Bartosz Cybulski, who happens to be the communication marketing specialist, and he's based out of Perth, Western Australia, Australia. So, Bartosz, it gives me an absolute pleasure to welcome you to this podcast session of mine. So, Bartosz, how are you doing and how are things in Perth? I mean, I believe that, the summer has just started. So, how is the heat wave at the moment there? I mean, in
Thank
Perth.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Akil. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, Perth is certainly hotting up. We've had one day of 28 degrees, but we're just in that period where it's transitioning from winter into summertime. So it's starting to get there. And if you ask many, it's probably the most beautiful time of the year because it's not too cold, but it's not too hot.
Got it, got it. I think that's the right time to visit Perth then. But probably as the summer picks on, let's say, from November, December, I think it'll just go massive with respect to the temperature.
Absolutely. We're going to get some nice hot days. I personally love the heat, so I'm looking forward to those 35 plus days. But look, understandably, it's not for everybody.
Yeah, it is true. It is true. Everyone has their own preference, but I prefer that because, I come from the Indian subcontinent and our weather is almost, close to that of Perth. So yes, there's a cloning there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Bartosz. So, Bartosz, without any further ado and welcoming you to this podcast here, session of mine, let's kick off with our podcast session. All right.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, Bartosz, let's talk about your previous tenure, like where you are, where you were the, communication marketing specialist with a perspective on the concept of AI.
Absolutely. Thank you, Akil. And that's a big question. And look, my journey began 20 years ago now. So there has been a lot of changes in that time in the digital marketing space, digital communication space. Look, the journey really began at the end of 2004. And when we graduated university, came into the market at the time, there was a lot of I guess, advertising agencies. A lot of those agencies were still focusing on the traditional form of media. So a lot of magazines, a lot of brochures, all those kind of print advertising. And it was a really exciting time because there wasn't, you could feel there was a change in the air, but there was still a lot of doubt. And I would equate that to what's happening here in the AI space right now with a lot of experimentation, trying to understand what this new technology can do, trying to understand how we can leverage it, and then moving that into a measurable KPI space that has some kind of a metric and some kind of value added for the companies, for the clients. So
All right.
similarly, at the time, advertising agencies were transitioning to become digital agencies. So there was a lot of question around what the internet could do, how we could leverage it, what the branding will look like in a digital space. And we were just trying to figure out that digital footprint. So for us, starting out with website development, email signatures, then moving into the spaces of social media, with Facebook being the first, I guess, flagship for social media advertising and companies leveraging their audience. There was a lot of questions, a lot of doubts, but also a very exciting time to really sort of stretch your wings. And for anyone in a fresh space, similarly again to AI, when you're in a new space like that, you can really try almost anything to see what sticks, what works, and what doesn't. So it was a very exciting time to be in the industry here in Perth, and have seen a lot of changes come about since then.
Fantastic, Bartosz. Now, Bartosz, when you started your journey, or let's say when you started your uni in 2004, like back then, I'm pretty sure that, for the job applications, you might have, approached all these advertising agencies and, all these job firms. But back then, I mean, if you would might remember this, did you ever come across, the advertising agencies using AI as a platform back then? Like, because, AI was somewhere, unearthed and people did not know much about it. Was there any slight chance that they used AI in the first place there?
Look, that's a great question. And I can't recall, but it is a very interesting question because really chatbots have been around for quite a while,
Oh,
and
okay.
chatbots are a form, and so they have been around for years and years and years, and underappreciated really for the most part until the AI. It's kind of like saying drones and helicopters, it's really once AI, I guess, the brand, the name hit, I guess, big stream, people started to look at chatbots and machine learning and the kind of information that we feed into it very differently. Now, look, I definitely believe that there's always software out there before AI that could filter resume applications and things like that for certain keywords. But those were quite basic tools that were really trained for a specific task. I think AI has really taken it to a whole new level to not only filter through those specific keywords, but to also come up with some kind of a recommendation or some kind of a funnel that people who are using those particular tools can start to understand the applicants and who they're working with.
Yep. And I feel that AI is used in the right way when we talk about I mean recruiting the applicants and finding out the best ways that they can hire people. I think AI plays a very important role in that because nowadays I feel that AI is being a little bit misutilized. Certainly they're not using it for the right thing, and certain people have this misconception that AI is going to steal people's job. I don't feel that. I feel AI is going to give more leverage to people in upskilling themselves, and it's going to be a survival of the fittest, if I can just try to presume that.
Absolutely, and I think that's a very good point. And in preparation for the podcast, I also had a thought about look, what will all of this look like for people moving forward? And look, the words adaptability, lifelong learning, resilience, they're words that keep coming up. And interestingly, when you look at those statements, they're not specifically exclusive to AI and what is happening in the space currently. These are statements that could be applied to people's lives all throughout time. I think in the 21st century, we've certainly lived through some great change, and that by no means is slowing down. And I think
Yeah.
resilience, adaptability, and lifelong learning has as much of a place today as it had 20 years ago, 50 years ago, and beyond.
Exactly, exactly. That completely, sums up the thing, Bartos. No, Bartos, let's. Can you tell me about the inception and about your inclination, towards foraying into the digital communication and media space?
Yeah, look, back in the day when I went to Murdoch University and attended one of the very first courses in digital marketing space, it really was, again, a really new space that was really uncharted. And my initial interest in it is I have a passion towards technology in general. And when I started to look at the kind of courses available at the time, IT seemed a little bit too much. Never went down the graphic design route, but digital communications, it had two elements to it which I'm passionate about: digital and communications. And so when I completed the degree and went into the market, it really was predominantly about the digital aspect of the role. But working in advertising agencies, again, the word advertising says it all. It really, there is a big emphasis there on promoting brands, on getting certain actions performed in the market, which then got me thinking along the lines of, well, what does it take to get someone to click a button, or how do people work, or how do people actually act on the things that they see on screen or hear on the radio? And that got me going down the whole entire communications and I guess a little bit of psychology and just how people want to interact with their brands and what is it that they value. And so to me, digital communications was a natural avenue because it combined the two things that I'm passionate about and continues to be so to this day.
Fantastic. Now, when we talk about, these particular brands, okay, in what demographics? So let's say, what was the sector that the brands were affiliated with? Were they, from the public sector type of, scenario, or were there something, related to the consumer based things like, let's say, the wafers, or let's say, the cool drinks, or, the beers? Like, where did the thing, lead out to?
Yeah, look, absolutely. That's a great question as well. Being in Perth, Western Australia, mining is a big client. I think of quite a number of companies can relate to that.
Yeah.
And for us, there was also a lot of car companies. So between those two markets, we were able to really spread our wings. And I think, especially in the car companies, there was a lot more, I guess, emphasis on direct advertising to get the consumer to perform a certain action. So that space definitely taught me a lot about what people value in a brand, what people react to in a brand, and start to have a look at things like trends, start to look at things like analytics and market data. And again, this comes back into AI, doesn't it? Because when we started, we had access to Google Analytics, for example. It was quite a new tool, and it was
Hmm.
developing quite rapidly at the time. But it was a fantastic tool because it allowed us to really get an idea of the data that consumers were putting in through the websites, what they were
Yeah.
interacting with in the websites, what they were clicking on, how, what times, all this really granular information, which 15 years ago was gold. Now with
Absolutely. Yeah.
AI tools having direct input into that, we'll probably talk about this again, but I
Yeah.
just need to touch on transparency and ethical use. It really, once you start to hand over that data to AI, and AI can start to leverage that data to create adverts based on user behavior, you can start to get some very powerful and some very impactful advertising, which you may or may not instantly recognize as AI generated. So there'll need to be some sticker on the label to say that this is being generated by AI, so that you do know that this is coming from that space, so you can, I guess, know what to expect and just have that level of transparency with how this information and how this advertising is actually created.
Indeed, Bartos. Now, Bartos, when you talked about the car company, was the digital marketing only affiliated with, the Australian market, or was it, aiming towards the APAC market? Like, what was the
Yes.
scenario back then?
Yes. So with the car companies here, it was predominantly local. So we were targeting local consumers uh, with online marketing material, be that social media presence or website presence. But yeah, it really drove and spoke to local target audiences, which then it's quite handy because with local audiences you get to be even more
Yeah.
granular. So you get to be even more
Yep.
specific. So local sports teams, local weather patterns, all these things play a factor. Uh,
Exactly.
and you get to really specific with that kind of marketing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when they say local football teams, or local sports teams, it's more like you're part of that community, and people, and each one understands you the most once you're
Yes.
on a granular level.
Absolutely, absolutely. You create a more personal, direct rapport with your audience, with the companies, and you can really leverage that when it comes to their websites or social media presences and marketing communication streams. Yes.
Indeed, that's for sure, Bartos. Okay, so I just wanted to understand this, Bartos. Like, what is your take on, understanding the excellence of, let's say, the marketing with respect to, let's say, good, positive habits, emotional communication and human psychology, thereby cultivating the stakeholder relationship that is, complemented with the nuances of AI, or let's say the AI point of view.
Great question again. Look, I think when it comes to great marketing, great communication, ethics, I think is a big tick. I think people have a very good BS filter, if I could put it that way, and having ethical communication strategies and transparent marketing approaches builds credibility. And that market credibility becomes your leverage. It becomes your calling card, your point of difference. If the consumer is used to your communication being transparent, factual, up to date, not in any way misleading, then you start to build a rapport with that group, with your audience, and so you start to really build upon a foundation, a real strength, or as a professional. Your brand becomes a go-to for valuable information, for valid information. And so people are more likely to listen. People are more likely to take the advice that the brand is dispensing, and they're less likely to drag your emails into the spam filter. But that kind of credibility does take time to build up. It's not a quick fix, but the role of AI in that space can be useful in the sense that you can use AI for research. You can use AI to understand certain fields and areas and trends, and do basic, I guess, consumer research around their style of language. But you do have to be mindful with AI research because it can make mistakes. It can make up quotes and things that just really haven't happened. So it's very important to keep that in mind when doing research through AI, but it can certainly be a tool to help you to understand your target market, help you to understand your area of specialty, maybe a little bit more in depth, and to understand what people really want to see from your brand and the way they really want to see it, the way they want to interact with it.
Fantastic. Bartosz. Now, Bartosz, there was a particular word where I asked in the question, the human psychology. Let's go a little bit deep into it and, divulge on that fact. Now, how do you think the concept of AI and the world and, the human psychology is actually, getting knitted together? Like, what's what is the collision between them?
Yeah, look, absolutely. Yeah, I've said that's a great question about 10 times so far, but absolutely, you've done your research here. And so this is another really fascinating section, I think, because look, it is machine learning. As a professional in the communication space over decades of experience, you start to learn about certain points that people value when it comes to branding, and you really get that experience, that in-depth experience into what makes a great brand, what makes a great communication strategy. But that is information you acquire as an individual into that space. And then you still function at the space of a human being. You still have your commitments outside of work. You still need to eat. You still need to sleep, etc. Once you take all of that information, which has been collected through various books, data sources, and channels, and you start feeding into an AI, which is specifically designed for the purpose of creating great communication, great strategies, great brands, then you start to get into a powerful space where AI can really pinpoint those trigger points, can really create, for example, A/B testing marketing to determine how its audience is engaging with the content that it is creating. And left unchecked, it can really do some powerful communication. So that is how I see, I guess, the role of professionals in the AI space regarding to experience. And this then leads me on to another question, which I'm sure you have lined up, but I feel it
Yeah.
fits really well here, and that is the role of leadership and AI. And
Mm.
so this comes into, if we look at the model that I described previously with very specifically trained AI agents, basically the role of AI advisors in the leadership space is one which is going to evolve over the next coming years. And that is working and building more so on the example just given, in that you have some very highly trained AI agents specific to certain topics and areas of industry, and they can advise very correctly, much better than the I guess AI tools, generic AI tools we have available now, about the market, about the audience, about the kind of expected communications that one would be looking to create in this space. And this then leads into leadership quite heavily leaning on some of these agents to be able to make critical decisions. So again, all of that needs to come back to ethics. All of this needs to come back to, for example, saying, look, this decision was partially made with support of artificial intelligence. But again, if the tool is there, then quite obviously we will use it and then measure its success rates. But I believe that is going to be a strong trend over the next couple of years.
100%, Bartosz, that is for sure. Now, Bartosz, when we talk about, the human psychology here, I mean, I'm pretty sure that, we follow an algorithm. Based on the algorithm, we understand, what is the human behavior and what is the human patterns when they are choosing for a particular brand. So do you agree with the fact that, an algorithm is always required when we, take these kind of steps?
Yeah, look, algorithms. So could you maybe elaborate a little bit more around how you would see algorithms, or yeah?
Basically, like for example, there is a consumer and he's trying to understand, and he's purchasing a particular brand, and AI understands that this is his purchasing a pattern, and then based on that algorithm, it's going to give him suggestions, that he can buy these particular brands, related brands, and this is what he can try opting for in the in the future, in the further run. So I think algorithm is basically understanding the pattern of the consumer.
Yes, 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 yes. And those algorithms will then continue to grow. And coming back to as I've mentioned earlier, those algorithms will become quite specific in their tasks. But as I guess these specifically trained agents will start to come onto the market, it will be quite interesting to see, as we've seen with all technologies in the past, a lot of startups, a lot of different individuals and companies training their own individual artificial intelligence. But over time, it's like everything, things will start to merge together. So a lot of the individually trained AI agents relating to advice in a specific industry will start to merge together into so-called advice bots, or certain industries will start to pull together all the bots and agents related to
Of
them
course, of
over
course.
time. And then it's just effectively, it's quite transparent to us to be able to then decide on who do you want to speak with, and what sort of answers would you like it to deliver, and the kind of tone similar to what we have today, but
Yep.
obviously a lot deeper in the knowledge and understanding of those specific areas.
Absolutely, Bartosz. Now, Bartosz, smartly you have, just asked me the question based on, the role of leadership in AI. So on a higher level note, I could understand that. But if I can, understand a little bit, a deep insight about it, I would like to, ask you this particular question. Can you give me an insight into the role of leadership, pertaining to marketing, communications, advertising, and teamwork, complemented with the nuances of AI on the whole? Like, what do you say when it comes on the deep analogy of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think in digital marketing per se, within industry as a whole, when it comes to artificial intelligence in the leadership space, look, I think with artificial intelligence in general, right now, we are still in the experimenting stage. So a lot of industries are really trialing artificial intelligence to sort of understand what it could do and what kind of benefit it can deliver to their market. So it really is a case of trial and error in a lot of spaces, cautiously. I think everyone is approaching it with a grain of salt because it has a lot of
Yeah.
potential, but it has a
Yep.
lot of room for error. So I think in the leadership space, particularly, I think caution is definitely something that is something that I can see across the market. But in a sort of boots on the ground level, there's already a lot that AI is able to assist us with. Things like desktop research, not that long ago, we would have to go to Google, type in a specific search term, and then get
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bunch of websites or advertising and then troll through those. With AI, as it currently stands, we can find that information almost in a conversational manner. Now, advertising is an important one to cover directly within the AI space. By that, I mean not just AI helping the communicators out there, but communicators out there potentially including paid search results within our AI conversations. So again, we come
Yes.
back to ethics and transparency. Currently, there's quite a number of AI models that we can use online. Now, do we understand? Does every single one of us clearly understand where this information is coming from, how it's being decimated, and how it's being applied to the users? So with future trends, especially as commercialization in these spaces starts to take hold, we may we may miss some of the paid results which we might be being offered when searching up certain areas of industry or certain
Exactly.
market trends.
So when we talk about the leadership point of view in AI, do you think, Bartos, I mean, I hope it doesn't happen. Do you think in the future there is going to be something called the AI boss in a particular company?
Yeah, look, I personally think 100% it will. Because yeah, look, why are we driving AI as hard as we are? Because for human beings, efficiency is a vital component of our purpose. So as we look at AI from an efficiency point of view, we would want to interject AI into every single role in some way or another. And as that
Yeah.
AI becomes smarter and better at what it does, well, we'll compare it. We'll compare it naturally as what humans do. We'll say, how is an AI-driven car better than a human-driven car? You
Oh
know,
my.
it's
Yeah.
it's 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 a natural way of going forward. I believe, I believe AI-driven cars will be easier to get, and you'll be encouraged to get one because humans behind steering wheels might be shown to be more hazardous than AI driving the car for you, which is going to be cheaper for insurance, which will be more efficient for a car because you're
Hmm.
not pumping the gas or slamming on the brakes as hard. So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. You see, like AI is a form is the purest form of efficiency. So if we look at AI from an efficiency point of view, absolutely we will have AI leadership in the future. Now, how much power we give this leadership is again up to us in time.
Yep.
But absolutely from a high level advisory role, a human leader can work with an AI leader to create policies, decisions, and make uh, an educated decision about certain topics and industries.
100%, Bartos. So, Bartos, now I'm aware of the fact, and I just even mentioned out in the introductory pitch that you're based in Perth, and you've also told that Perth is a place that that is completely wiped up with the mining industry. Now, is there any use case that you would like to narrate me? How AI is complemented with the mining industry. Like, what is the use case that that gels the both?
Yeah, look, I think this industry, like every other industry, will really start to look at machine learning and to be able to understand the data in particular. So if I could equate it to marketing traffic, for example, there's a lot of data created in user traffic online. And so similarly, in these industries, there is a lot of data which needs to be, I guess, assessed. So I imagine AI will be used to look at data and to find relevant trends.
Absolutely. Now, you gave me a complete, a heads up on the mining industry, but when it comes to, the city of Perth, how do you think, it is being used with AI? Like, do you see any use case around, around you in your city? Like any kind of thing that you came across?
Yeah, yeah, look, absolutely. I think, look, there's nothing that has really come into fruition yet, but just by using things like, apps on our phones to direct our way through traffic, we can start to see those individual companies introduce elements of artificial intelligence into those applications. So
Mhm.
when we are looking at pathways through our cities at certain times, those applications start to really drill down into the kind of things that people can expect in their paths. They can start to make recommendations at certain times of the day, and we can start to see, I guess, intelligence, if not directly in the form of artificial intelligence. There's certainly a level of intelligence being utilized with those apps to navigate your way around the city.
Yeah, absolutely. Bartos, earlier I was living in Melbourne, and in Melbourne we have something called the PTV card. And PTV card is like a particular thing, like a card for us, to travel around, different modes of transport. Now, I just got a clear, vision that, AI can be used, with all these, card or, the transport department in a way, where, suppose a person is late and he's not able to, catch the train. And suppose, he injects a particular, timer, or let's say that, he has this meeting at this particular time, then AI will give him that, that understanding, or it'll convince him that, you could board this train and you could reach a bit earlier. So I think that kind of advancements can, usually come up probably in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, I think as the agents and your assistants, your personal assistants, will become more in tune with your individual trends and habits, workplaces. Wearable tech is another huge space that is evolving and growing. Smart watches, smart rings, smart wearable devices that can track
Yeah.
heart rates. When you plug all of that data directly back into your personal AI agent, you can get some very niche and customized suggestions. For example, simple things like, should I ride my bike to work? Based on your current data, no, you shouldn't, because you might not make it. But for other people, yeah, go ahead, or maybe get a scooter, or get up a little bit earlier to beat the traffic in your area to be able to get there 30 minutes earlier. So those micro adjustments based on your personal data, plugged into your personal assistants, whether it's your phone or whether it's smart wearable glasses, will be a huge impact moving forward to help you to kind of um, not necessarily just squeeze the most out of your day, but to really stay healthy in a lot of these situations. It's so helpful to have your heart rate data to be able to understand, what is your heart rate when you're running for the bus versus to how are you sitting down, or how long have you been sitting down? Your AI agent can tell you it's time to stand up and to go for a walk, and that might make a huge impact in your daily life.
Absolutely, absolutely, Bartosz. That is a beautiful use case. Now, Bartosz, would you like to talk about your enthusiasm and passion towards understanding the nuances of tech on the whole? And having said that, is there any interesting backstory that is associated with it?
Yeah, look, my passion in this space is really the fact that I love the whole human element, which is interesting because we're talking about AI, but really it's all integrated. And for me, I really love the human aspect of what it is that I do. I love to see people react to quality communication pieces. I'm passionate about understanding what helps them to make those decisions at what times and what topics. And so really with that space in mind, it's a constant journey of learning and a constant journey of discovery. And this is where AI really comes into this space well, because it helps you to understand your audience a little bit better. It helps you to drill down into data and information that you wouldn't otherwise potentially have time to read through. And by being able to work collaboratively with your AI, in a way, counterpart, you're able to start to get a deeper sense of your industry, and you can help to become a better professional in that space. So you were quite right when you said initially that it's not necessarily going to take everyone's jobs. It is definitely a tool, like a car is a tool, or like a laptop is a tool, or like a calculator is a tool to help us to really maximize our working life, our personal life, and it has a lot of potential to be a really strong aid. Now, my interesting backstory is again similar to what I have mentioned at the beginning, and that is the great amount of change that I have seen in the digital space, coming from basically brochures online to now being where we are with AI starting to really take front row center. It's quite fascinating again just to see how that space is changing. We went from basic text-based HTML pages with a graphic in there to really beautiful multimedia experiences targeted for human interaction. But now, talking to contacts within industry, we're starting to see website traffic go down because people are having more conversations with their AI agents. AI agents are going away, finding information on your behalf and presenting it back to you in a conversation style. So
Yes,
you no
yes.
longer need to visit the website particularly. So it's an interesting trend. So we're going from multimedia styled structure to back again to a basic HTML slash text where AI can quite easily and quickly and correctly identify the information that you are trying to communicate to your stakeholders, and inform that back in a conversation to your user.
Absolutely, Bartosz. Now, Bartosz, when you started out in the uni, like, when you were, starting with your career, did you see any AI use cases used by your, university back then, or was it, pretty chilled out, without having the tension of, using the AI use cases? I mean, in
Yeah, look,
2004.
it was very much a niche space at the time. As I've mentioned, there was a lot of work being done initially with things like chatbots. So there was a lot of learning in that space, in the kind of information we can feed it, in the kind of information it can realistically pull out. And there was a lot of experimentation in those spaces. But But really, at the time, it was a very fresh space, so there wasn't a lot that was happening. I think some of the more exciting bits of work and projects that we got to work on was something back then called Adobe Flash with
Oh,
ActionScript, and we were able to combine animations, I guess, multimedia with actual code to have some kind of a usable output online, which was a really exciting time back in 2004. But really, yeah, it has been a journey in the background a lot of the time, which is now coming into a foreground in a very mixed bag. Some people are very excited about it right now, and some people are quite apprehensive of it. But I think it's wise to keep learning in this space and to keep understanding how it's evolving, because you don't want it to creep up on you. You want to have a little
exactly.
bit of understanding around
Right.
what's around the corner and how it could potentially have impact in your space.
100%, 100%, Bartos. When you talked about your project, that you were using the Adobe Flash and you were using it for the animation thing. Where was the animation, project directed to? Was it, who was the end user for that? Was it the government? Was it the public sector, or was it some kind of an advertising agency that was looking for it?
Yeah, look, so when I was working in the advertising agencies, it was certainly the consumers that were the target for these Flash web pages at the time. And again, that's when I got my first taste of user interfaces, colors, fonts, buttons, things that would make you go blind if you look at it too many times, and the kinds of things that people do generally tend to like to interact with. But yeah, look, every target audience has a specific language, it has a specific style, it has a specific brand that it likes to interact with. And so this was really a case of understanding your target market. So this is when I first started to delve into those segments of your audience to understand how do they want this information presented? What is it that is important to them in this particular message? And how is it that they will be consuming it? For example, some people will just want to download a PDF and read the summary. Other people have the time and an understanding in a specific industry to really get granular with the table data. But again, understanding who you are speaking to in that context was something that I was really starting to get educated at on a whole new level.
Fantastic, Bartos. Now, Bartos, before we, actually conclude our podcast session, let's take a lighter route in the form of a rapid fire round. All this while we were just talking about, how the human psychology meets AI, about your tenure as a, communication marketing specialist, and all about AI. I was bombarding you with too many questions, but I'll just take a pretty lighter route now in the form of a rapid fire round. Nothing about AI, nothing about, the digital marketing side, just, your likes and interests. So I'll just kickstart with the very first question of the rapid fire round, and once you're ready, we can just start it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Shoot.
Perfect, perfect. So Bartos, the first question to you. So Bartos, what's your favorite sports team?
Sports team. Look, I don't have a favorite sports team. What I like to do is play sports myself. So
Okay.
in my private life, I'm quite active. I love to swim. I love to go to the gym. I love to meditate. I love to do yoga. I
Oh,
find
okay.
that helps to keep me fit, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It helps to ground me and make more space for AI in my brain.
Okay, I mean that is like a complete recoup, and that'll actually make you understand AI much more better. With all these let's say these charging activities, which I can try to understand.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Fantastic. Now, I mean, let's say, I'm a person who's based out of India, and I've just moved to Australia very recently. And when I think about the city Perth, it always comes to my mind that, it's all about, India facing Australia in Perth city. So for my Indian audience, how would you like to, talk about Perth? Like, what is that thing that Indian audience should be aware of? Or let's say the world audience alike?
Absolutely. Look, we are a beautiful multicultural city. If you want to see half the world in one single city, come down to Perth. It's a beautiful space, beautiful beaches. Look, come during the early summer months, and you'll be exposed to fantastic weather, amazing food, and honestly, just a beautiful lifestyle. Being a migrant myself, when we first arrived here, we fell in love with the place
Oh,
instantly. It
okay.
is a beautiful space, deep in wealth and resources, and we really found ourselves to be blessed to be in a place like this. So, if you're coming from abroad to Perth, you couldn't have found a better place to come to.
Fantastic, fantastic. I would definitely love to come to Perth because I'm based in Sydney now, and I'll definitely fly off. I think it's a 4 hour or let's say 3 hour flight for me.
Yes, yes.
All right. So I understand that you have the inclination towards Perth. Now, when we talk about Western Australia, what is that particular place in Western Australia that you like the most?
Yeah, look, it's definitely Perth, but I have traveled up as high as Monkey Mia and down to Albany. And Western Australia is huge and it's full of such varied beauty. So, I mean, you can go down to Albany and get a real, a different climate, different temperature, different change of pace in life. You can go up to Shark Bay, Monkey Mia. Again, lots of beautiful beaches, amazing wildlife. For me, really, Perth is the one that ticks all the boxes. I am quite metropolitan in the sense that I do enjoy the city life and living in suburbs. But when I travel for holidays and just to let my hair down, I definitely love to either go down south or a little bit up north, depending on the time of the season. It's always a little bit warmer up there. So if I want to get away from the heat, go up that way, and you get a great holiday.
Fantastic. Fantastic, Bartosz. So, Bartosz, since you told about, the cosmopolitan life, I'm pretty sure that you had your taste of, Indian food. Since I'm Indian by origin, I am pretty keen to understand and ask you this, like, what is that favorite Indian food that you like to always try?
Yeah, look, absolutely, and great question. So, my wife is half Indian, half Sri Lankan. So,
Oh,
her
okay.
family make amazing Indian food. So I've had the privilege to try a whole variety of curries and rices, basmatis, and everything else in between. We've traveled to Rajasthan actually about
Rajasthan. Yeah, yeah.
7 years ago for a
Oh,
holiday. Beautiful country. We got to see some amazing people, amazing scenery, and tried some incredible food. So I am blessed enough not to have to go to a restaurant to try amazing Indian food. I can just hang out with my family.
it's fantastic. You're very lucky that way.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Awesome, awesome, Bartosz. Now, Bartosz, I want to understand this. Like, what was the last song that you've heard, in
Uh,
your playlist?
yeah,
Yeah.
look, so to answer that question, I have been my Google Music account has been hijacked by my daughter. So I believe that the last music that would have been playing would have been something relating to Taylor Swift.
All right. And you just told me that you're an immigrant yourself and you arrived to Perth. So what is that, that food, that origin food that you always like to try? Or let's say, the comfort food of yours.
Pierogi, bigos. So it's amazing food, and I'm quite fortunate again to have my parents here in Poland. So every now and again, my mum will cook up a big batch of pierogi, and I'm not the only fan. There's a lot of people in my life who really love that as well, so I have to spread it around. But yeah, absolutely. Whenever I'm lucky enough for my mum to make it. We definitely steal a whole big bag, but really what I have to do too is I have to take time to actually learn the recipe from my mum so that I can actually come home and get my daughter onto it because she's a big fan of it, just to name one.
Pierogi, right? Yeah, I've heard of it a lot. And, I've seen it in, let's say, in these food vlogs, but I've never tried it myself. But yeah, given a chance when I go to Sydney, I'll just, pick it up.
When you come down to Perth, we'll catch up and I'll have a big batch ready for you.
And that completely works.
Good,
Awesome,
good.
awesome, Bartos. Yeah. So the final question to you. So what is your favorite, Hollywood movie, or let's say who's your favorite Hollywood actor? If I would, just like to sum up these two questions for you.
Yeah, that's a great question as well. It's hard to pinpoint as specific, but to answer that, I think I've been getting into foreign cinema a lot lately. And one of my favorite shows at the moment is actually a Polish TV show. I believe it's called 1790, and it's a comedy show, and yeah, I've
Hmm.
been branching out into other cinema. There's been quite a lot of Hindi movies that I've watched as well in my
Hindi
time.
movies.
Yes, yes. So it's quite a rich tapestry there for multimedia for
Yeah.
myself.
Awesome, awesome. Before we actually, conclude our, rapid fire round, what is, since you're Polish and, by origin, would you like to, teach me a particular Polish word that, I need
Ah,
to be aware of?
Dzień dobry. It means hello, and jak się masz, which means how are you?
Yakshimash, I'm doing good.
And also pierogi.
You're okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Yakshimash. That's a good word. I could get it really easily.
Yes, yeah, nice and simple.
Absolutely, absolutely, Bartosz. So Bartosz, finally, thank you so much, for taking time from your busy schedule and being part of my podcast initiative. Your support really means a lot to me, and I just had a superb time, conversing with you on different use cases of AI, especially talking from the grassroots of your city, Perth, and the use cases used in for mining industry, for the city, for the transportation. It was very, very insightful. So I just loved each and every insight shared by you. So thank you so much once again, Bartos.
Well, thank you very much, Akil, for having me on your show. I really enjoyed speaking to you, and I hope to see you in person soon in Perth.
Definitely, I'll be there very shortly.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. All right. So, listeners, on this note, this is your host, Akil Lavluri, signing off. We would be back with another podcast episode with another eminent industry leader very soon. Till then, keep listening. Take care. Goodbye. Stay tuned and au revoir. Thank you.